Channel Sports Central will be going over a college football game preview and prediction on the 2021 Sugar Bowl and the college football playoff semifinal between Clemson and Ohio State. And these two teams have definitely had quite the history between each other in college football playoff. We've seen both these teams play quite a bit over the past few years, and this should make for quite a matchup between both these teams. And this is definitely the matchup where I think Ohio State genuinely has a chance. But then again, you got Clemson, who's coming off of a huge win against Notre Dame in the ACC championship game. Ohio State is the Big Ten champion, but they've only got 6 wins. But then again, it should make for a great matchup. We're going to go over a full game preview and prediction on this game here today, starting out with your team trends. Last game for Clemson, they beat Notre Dame 34-10 in the ACC championship. Meanwhile, for Ohio State, they beat Northwestern 22-10 in the Big Ten championship, which that game for Ohio State did not look very good. Northwestern was beating them for the majority of that game, but Ohio State still pulled away in the end and got a good win. But winning streaks for both these teams, Clemson is ranked second in the nation. They're 10-1 with a 3-game winning streak, and then Ohio State is ranked third in the nation. They're 6-0 with a 6-game winning streak. And so for Ohio State here, the Bucs are still undefeated, but the thing is that they've only played 6 games. And in comparison to Clemson, who's played 11 games this season, it's just a crazy year. And really for both teams, it's tough to predict this game because you've only seen Ohio State play 6 games. For Clemson, you've seen them play a ton, but then again, they've got 1 loss. So, yeah, it should make for a great matchup either way, though. You got these two teams who've always had a great matchup. Clemson's had a lot more success against Ohio State than the Bucs have over Clemson. But then again, Clemson is definitely a team with Trevor Lawrence that is really hard to beat. We saw Trevor Lawrence out for a couple of weeks during the season because he had COVID. And during those weeks that Trevor Lawrence was out, Clemson was not a very good team. We saw them lose to Notre Dame in there. They allowed 28 points to Boston College. Several close games when Trevor Lawrence wasn't quarterback. But ever since Trevor Lawrence has been back from COVID and he's been healthy, he's been doing as good as he ever has. They blew out Pittsburgh 52-17, blew out Virginia Tech by 35, and they blew out Notre Dame by more than 20. So, this is a Clemson team right now that is on fire. And for Ohio State, that's going to be a tough team to beat with Clemson. But, then again, Ohio State's got Justin Fields, which this Ohio State team, in my opinion, even though they had a close game against Northwestern, this is a really good Ohio State team. And honestly, this year is definitely the year. If Ohio State's going to beat Clemson and make it to the national championship, this year is definitely the year for them, in my opinion. Game's going to be on Friday, January 1st, New Year's Day, 8 p.m. Eastern Time in New Orleans. Sparkling says Clemson by 7.5. And the ESPN FPI, first time I have ever seen this, and I've been doing analysis for 4 years. This is an even ESPN FPI here in this matchup, which is insane to see because the ESPN FPI predicts the games with even decimal percents. So it's even right now, 50.0% between both of these teams. And if you go on ESPN, if you go on the preview page on ESPN for this, you'll see that the ESPN FPI is actually even in this game. It's insane to see that because it's the first time in however many games that I've ever seen that. Pretty wild. But the spread is saying Clemson by a heavy amount with 7.5. The Vegas prediction also going with Clemson here, 33-28, being the current projected final score. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Clemson's got 44 points per game, 17 points allowed. They've got 343 pass yards a game, 163 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they got 198 passing and then 99 rushing. As for the Buckeyes, they got 42 points per game, 21 points allowed. They got 253 pass yards a game, 275 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they got 261 passing and then 96 rushing. So both these teams are similar in a lot of areas on both sides for sure. Ohio State is definitely more of a rushing team than Clemson is. And Clemson's got Travis Etienne, who's definitely been playing as good as he ever has. But then again, Clemson's got Trevor Lawrence, and they've definitely been taking advantage of what his talent is, which is great for Clemson because, he's put up 343 average pass yards per game, which is insane. But then again, on the Clemson side, this is a team in the secondary that's playing as good as anybody. This secondary on the Clemson side is outstanding. They got several players on the defensive side that definitely will be going to the NFL later on. And 198 average pass yards allowed per game. That's an outstanding stat line. But for Ohio State here being a team that's got Justin Fields, that is going to be very important in this game considering how good of a team this is offensively for Ohio State in the passing game with Justin Fields. So got to consider that there as well. But for Ohio State, they're definitely not going to be able to rely on the passing game here in this matchup. You got a great rushing core. You got Trey Sermon leading the rushing core there with right around 700 yards on the season with 3 touchdowns. So he's playing very well right now too. So for Clemson, Clemson, you can't just watch over the passing core. You got to watch out for the rushing core as well. So that's going to be a big thing for Clemson here. But for Ohio State, I mean, Ohio State has definitely been great on the rushing defense side. It's just the passing defense in the secondary that Ohio State has had a little bit of trouble in, but I definitely think Ohio State definitely has potential to get a win here. This is a team with Ohio State that's been playing very well recently. I mean, if you look at them, before that Northwestern game, I mean, they blew out Michigan State. They do have a quality win over an Indiana team that's been playing very well. They also beat Northwestern, which Northwestern's been good. So Ohio State, I definitely think, even though Ohio State's only played 6 games this season, this is still a team that I think is very capable of being just as good as anybody. Some key points for this one: Clemson has been very dominant since the return of Trevor Lawrence. There's no doubt about that. I mean, once again, during the games that Trevor Lawrence has been back, for the previous 3 games, Clemson has absolutely annihilated all of their opponents, and that's going to be huge coming into this game. Ohio State's got some huge motivation here, though. I mean, that's something you also got to consider here, and that's also a big reason why I think this could be the year for Ohio State. I mean, if you look at Dabo Swinney on the Clemson side, a big mistake that he did he gave Ohio State huge motivation when he ranked the Buckeyes as 11th in the coaches poll. I mean, I'm sure that's definitely posted on the billboard in Ohio State right now, is that Clemson's head coach ranked Ohio State outside of the top 10. So they're definitely going to want to prove Dabo Swinney wrong here. Ohio State's going to be very motivated. That's definitely something you got to watch out for in this game. But Ohio State's been very consistent all season, even though they've only played 6 games. Like, we've seen them play very well. Like, they did allow 27 points to Rutgers, and even though they haven't played as well as Alabama, for example, Ohio State is still a great team. Like, Alabama is a one-of-a-kind team, and for Ohio State to be playing as well as they are right now, Ohio State's been outstanding this season. But I do expect a moderate to low-scoring game here. I mean, if you look at the over-under in this game, we're currently sitting at 66.5, which I definitely think is inaccurate, and I definitely would not bet the over-under in this game very much. I mean, this is a game where, I mean, I could easily see it either going over or under. Like, I'm definitely not going to be doing any betting with that, but I definitely think Ohio State should be able to put up some good points in this game. Definitely thinking it past that Clemson secondary, which is definitely going to be tough to do. But same thing for Clemson here is that, I mean, Travis Etienne's going to have a tough time rushing against Ohio State, but still, I do expect both teams to put up a decent amount of scoring, and that's what I'm going with. I'm going with Ohio State in this game. I'm going to pull the Buckeyes to finally get a win over Clemson. This is the year for Ohio State. I think Ohio State, I mean, even though they've only played 6 games, you guys are going to call me crazy for this one, but I think Justin Fields, even though Trevor Lawrence is as good as he is, Justin Fields is probably second to Trevor Lawrence in being drafted in the 2021 NFL Draft. I think Justin Fields is just as good as pretty much anyone right now. And even though Justin Fields did not have as good of a game against Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship, I think that kind of turns around to this game, and I think we see Justin Fields have a huge day against Clemson. We're going to see Ohio State get the win over Clemson. It's going to be very close, though, and the probability, as you can see, I've only got 55% for Ohio State. I could easily see Clemson getting the win here. Like, this could easily go either way, but I'm going with the Buckeyes here. I think Ohio State finally gets a win over Clemson. It's going to be very close. We're going to see a very back-and-forth matchup. This should be a matchup that's going to be just as good of a game as we've seen in recent history, I think. I think we're going to see both these teams go back and forth this entire time. But Ohio State, once again, they've got the motivation. They've got all the motivation in the world in this game here. I mean, once again, we saw Dabo Swinney rank Ohio State as number 11, and that's going to be in the minds of all these Ohio State players. They're going to come into this game very motivated. They're going to get the win. 31-28 is going to be the final score. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Score predictions, all of that down below. I appreciate you guys all watching this one. Yeah, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. More previews coming soon. I'll see you later.